Let's talk about my real estate investment strategy. I'm going to walk you through how it's gone over the last few years, what the point of it is, and explain to you some new terms you might not be aware of, because there's a lot that's new in real estate lately. And there's no strings attached to this video. I already have a couple hundred videos on this channel about how I've done it, but I'm going to give you kind of more of a broad brush approach to my rental arbitrage investment strategy, and that way you can really understand from, probably a home buyer's perspective of why I do it the way that I do, and this might give you some really solid benefits. So before you go and buy another home and lock up a mortgage and kind of get stuck in a property where the money moves a lot more slowly, you should be aware of rental arbitrage, because this could really ramp up your investment strategy even if you just mix it in. The amount of cash flow that you'll get from this strategy will be 3 or 4 times the amount that you'll get in rent per property typically, and having that much cash flow can really do wonders for your business. Okay, so my name's Rakidzich, this is Airbnb Automated, and let's talk about my journey with rental arbitrage. Welcome back, Airbnb family. So yes, as you notice, I'm somewhere cold. I'm on a short vacation in Colorado to Winter Park. I'm going to go snowboarding, hopefully not die, so I can stay here with you guys and talk to you more about how to build an Airbnb business. But this video, of course, is for the real estate community in general. If you're a real estate investor, property owner, hopeful home buyer type, I want you to understand that there's more out there than what you've been sold already. And so typically, what the world will tell you is you want to get like an investment loan or an FHA, live there, house hack, all that good stuff. And so I want to talk to you about my experiences with my real estate portfolio. I started with a couple properties in 2014 while running my consulting business, and it was kind of a unique market because Houston had an oversupply of homes and apartments, and it was so bad that Houston was giving away, like a lot of properties in Houston were giving away 2 months of rent for free on a 1-year-long lease, and paying real estate agents like 150% or 200% commission on the monthly rent, which means if a home was $1,500 a month, they would be giving away 2 months of rent free and then giving away $3,000 in commission. That's a cost of sale of 4 months out of the 12 months. That's basically 33% of the year was being given away in order to get somebody in the home. That's pretty bleak, right? So if you're a homeowner buying a new home and the home's not that nice because you got your first property and it needs a lot of love, and some fancy building with all the amenities like a pool and a gym are giving away rent like on the super cheap, homeowners got their butts kicked for a long time. And this is coming back around again because Houston is again giving away these types of concessions, and so is Dallas, and every market's different. So Houston is kind of a slave to certain enterprises like oil. But that's when I started my journey in rental arbitrage. Now, what rental arbitrage is, because you may not understand it, is that you're going to find properties that you think you could rent, and then you can turn those into an income stream that's higher than your cost structure, and you get a profit what's in the middle, right? So when you rent a property and you want to provide it as a re-rental, you could simply just find somebody else to live there. I've done this before. There's a traveling nurse who was looking for a place where she didn't have to commit to the lease. She wanted to stay month by month, bring her own furniture, and she'd pay me a marked up rent, just as long as she needed to live in Houston, and the company was paying her rent for her. So I got a lease for like $2,400 a month, and I got 2 months of rent for free. And then she gave me $3,100 a month for 14 months, and eventually moved out. But she brought her own furniture, and for 14 months I was making a $700 like a month markup, and I made $2,800 on the front end. I mean, not 28, but like $4,800 on the front end. It was a huge win, like absolutely. So rental arbitrage can be very much that simple. You can see student housing is the same way. Somebody rents an entire house by the bedroom, and they make more money than if they rented the whole home on its own in that student housing area. So there's a guy I met in Philly who does this. He rents a home, and then he flips them into private rooms, and then he rents a home he rents as bedrooms to students, and he makes a margin, right? That's another example of arbitrage that has nothing to do with my particular strategy. So arbitrage is valid. You'll see Gary Vaynerchuk touting retail arbitrage, like flipping stuff online, and you'll see that throughout history there's plenty of opportunities to make that play where somebody's giving something away too cheap and you can take advantage. See, the faster the world starts to move, the less accurate it'll be, and the faster that people move, the more mistakes that they make. And this is common, and we are in a high-paced world where people are just trying to get in, trying to make some money, trying to move on, and they're too busy, right? We're in an on-demand economy, and they're too busy to really like thread the needle per se. So they're leaving money on the table, and you can take advantage of that. So what is my strategy in this whole entire business? Well, it started with the same thing that happened in Houston with us 2 months free. My goal is to find properties that need me so much that they're willing to give that kind of concession. So I become an arbitrage partner. For example, in Philadelphia, I just took 20 doors from a building that they're a new build, and the build ended late, and it's like the build ended kind of in the winter, and it's kind of hard to fill up with tenants in the winter. So they're going to have a hard time getting anybody to move in, so they really need the cash now because the bank is going to be calling on those notes to get paid, and they want to make sure that they can cover it. So by having me come in and rent 20 units and pay them their, like their $24,000-$30,000 a month in rent, it really helps boost their cash flow and allows them to pay the bank. Right? So there's an opportunity to work with me where even though you wanted to get a tenant directly, having my company rent from you and then take over that risk is something that you're willing to do because you might be in over your head, or you might be in a situation you don't understand. So a lot of regular single-family homeowners can go through this too. You'll see that their property's on the market for 60, 90 days without getting a tenant, and they're starting to get worried because they've got that mortgage to pay. And a lot of people don't account for the fact that they could go 6 months without having a tenant. That would be terrible. So this is where my company solves that problem, right? I become that arbitrage partner. So what I do is I look for people who need me that much, that what I can do is I get like 8 weeks free up front, and then I also negotiate down my security deposit costs because I'm getting them in bulk. So out of the last 30 apartments that I negotiated in Philadelphia, 10 of them have a $700 per door security deposit, and 20 of them have a $500 per door security deposit. So I get in for that $500. I then buy the furniture, which costs me about $4,000 for a studio or 1 bedroom, and that's typically what I go for in bulk, and then I'll go for like 3 bedrooms as well so I can accommodate groups in a way that other people can't. But on these 1 bedrooms, my goal is to get in for under $5,000, and the fact that my first 8 weeks of rent are free, if I can just spend 7 days setting up the property, I have 7 weeks to market it where I'm not paying anything. So my strategy here is to get in for that $500 security deposit and then spend that $4,000 a month on furniture, try to spend less than a week setting it up, and then I'll have 7 weeks to make some money before rent's actually due. And so I try to cash flow about $5,000 in that first 8 weeks, and then I'll pay my rent. So I have $3,500 left after 8 weeks. And then I'll cash flow about another $3,000 that third month, and then I'll pay my rent again, and those expenses, and then I'll have $5,000 left. Because in the first 3 months, I was able to get and set up and generate cash flow for 12 or 13 weeks and have $8,000 in cash flow, and then I've paid, like, coming into month 4, I've prepaid months 4 of rent, and that's a total of like $3,000 in expenses, and I get my $5,000 back. Right? So now that coming into month 4, I have that $5,000 I invested initially, and I can go and do it again. So in a kind of a more pragmatic world, my goal is to reinvest my income or reinvest that initial investment every 6 months or better. Right? So you can double every 6 months, which means that you go from 4 listings to 8 listings 6 months later. You go from 8 to 16 listings 6 months later. You go from 16 to 32 listings 6 months later, and then 32 to 64 6 months later. At one point, you get so big that the hard part is finding enough deal flow and finding staff that can help you manage this type of business. And that's why, of course, I have these 200 videos on this channel, because how I've gone from like 10, I think my very first videos, like when I show you my multi-calendar, or I'm in Austin, Texas, talking about not buying for the first time a few years ago, I had 10 listings. And I did not grow in accordance to the strategy because I was kind of green. Like, I was new to Airbnb, just the same as a lot of other people are, like many of you are. And so I didn't grow as lean as I could because I didn't realize that snowball effect yet. But now I'm at 97 properties, and I'll have 110 before the end of January. So you can grow wicked fast if you know what you're doing and you build the right systems in place. So my real estate strategy involves not buying a property at all, ever. And I think a lot of people have this misconception that if you're going to be a real estate investor, that you have to actually own the property you're investing in. And that's not true. See, you might think that you need to sell your portfolio of homes later, or you want to leverage your homes to get more debt later. And debt is such a sexy thing in the real estate community, but you don't really need it, right? So first off, I started this business with $4,000. Now we're cash flowing like $3 million a year. Companies like mine are worth hundreds of millions of dollars. For example, Sonder, they're worth over $1 billion. Airbnb themselves invested into 2 companies that I know of, which is Lyric. They invested $160 million in Lyric. They're worth $240 million. And then they invested $55 million into Zeus, and Zeus is worth $205 million. So the founders of those businesses got paid. They got seriously paid for Airbnb to buy into their business model. And if Airbnb is putting all their money into different like racehorses in the industry, and they're the ones with all the data, you can imagine that they know something that a lot of us don't know. They know that rental arbitrage is going to stick, and they're putting all their money, or a lot of their money, into different rental arbitrage partners like myself. So first off, you don't need the funding because I built 100 listings without ever having to like take an investor. But 2, you can sell. Or you can sell part of your business, you can sell all of your business, and these guys are examples of it. If you want to do it locally too, you can just build 5, 10, 15 doors. And what's funny, as I did a video in the past too, talking about how much money you can make, and you can make more money than like white collar professionals make, right? You can make, say on average $800, net cash, like in your pocket profit per month per door. You can make $8,000 a month that you get to keep on 8 studios, like 8 small apartments where your rents are like $1,200 to $1,300, $1,500 a piece. You get big houses, you can cash flow more. I have one home, one 3-bedroom apartment that I cash flow $100,000 a month or more. And I'm profiting $5,000 to $7,000 a month on one property. So you can do it with 8, you can do it with 1. Your market would probably want a little vetting before you decide what size property you want to, of course, pick up. And I do have about an hour-long webinar, also free, like everything on this channel is free, on how to do market research in your neighborhood. And that way you can find what property you think is going to be right for you. If you have any questions, we've got 200 or so videos on this topic on this channel. And if you don't find the answer you're looking for, just leave it in the comments. I do read these comments. I will get back to you. And I'm still building. I think that's the most important thing to talk about here. It seems like there's a guru every like 10 seconds. Somebody who knows what they're doing in real estate or Forex or Amazon FBA. And it's kind of sad because you don't know where to get real information. So go back through the last couple of years of videos so you can see that I've been just posting these videos while I've been building my business. So I'm not coming at you like hey, I build it, find out how by clicking on this course. Find out how by just going back in time. Dear Diary, it's 2017. What was Sean up to? Okay, so welcome to Airbnb Automated. Hello from Winter Park. Stay dry, and I'll see you on the other side.